All right, the stopwatch is on the Edmonton Oilers. 10 minutes to talk about this season and a preview. And well, first off, how about this? An immensely talented Alberta team that doesn't meet expectations. Where have we heard this before?
It feels like we just talked about it.
I feel like we did. So Edmonton is perennially one of the most interesting teams in the league. And they are, some people love their offseason. Some people hate their offseason. I'm right up the middle. I love some of what they did. Mm-hmm. I dislike strongly other things of what they did. And obviously you've got McDavid and Draisaitl have to be the best two players on a team since Malkin Crosby were at their peak. And before that, probably Mario and Jágr. Then you add Zach Hyman, who, a lot of Leaf fans on this channel, we could tell you what he does.
Yeah. Should he play with Draisaitl or should he play with McDavid? And I always say the same thing. Yes.
Yes, 100%. He's gonna. Here's the thing. He never quits. He's a great attitude guy. Everybody loves him, and he will dig out all the ugly pucks, allowing McDavid and Draisaitl to kind of just do what they're good at.
Penalty kill, power play, all of it.
The other thing that's really good here and real positive for Edmonton, whether or not you liked the amount of money paid out in this, Darnell Nurse signs long term. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a big deal. Because first off, the extension doesn't even kick in until after this season.
He did everything last year.
He did. And you get the sense it means something to him to stay there. And it certainly means something to that Oilers locker room, right? He is kind of that third big leader. You've got McDavid, you've got Draisaitl, Darnell Nurse, a huge, huge part of what the Oilers want to be.
It was a revolving door for a long time in Edmonton. And now, think of all the guys you have locked up to term. Nurse,
Nuge,
Hyman, Nuge, McDavid, Draisaitl. Yeah, you can work with that.
100%.
You can absolutely.
Everybody
work with
else
that
can be
core.
flexible after that, right?
Yes, that to me has been the Oilers' biggest problem, is not filling out the supporting cast. The stars are there, and they've added to that. They need to be able to fill out the supporting cast.
Well, and I think that started, obviously they wanted Milan Lucic originally to play with McDavid, just couldn't keep up. I think Hyman's got the foot speed to be able to play on that line. It's tough. It really is a challenge for NHL players to keep up with McDavid. He's otherworldly on that. You don't need us to tell you that.
What about year 7? We're
Yeah,
talking
who
about
cares?
this year.
They got to go for it now, and I think they are in the go for it zone. I know Ken Holland was famously quoted as saying, well, you can't go for it every year. I think from now on, they got to be go for it. Yeah. They got to be blowing draft picks out the window. They've got to be adding to this team as much as possible. Now, let me ask you guys this.
Sure.
Adam Larson, who always had the he was traded for Taylor Hall sticker on his back, still became a manageable and very, very good defensive defenseman for the Oilers. Their numbers were okay. The term was okay. The money was okay. He just wasn't Taylor Hall, and that was a problem for the Oilers, who had zero depth beyond McDavid and Draisaitl for a long time. Now he's gone. They thought they were going to keep him. Now he's gone.
Coming off his best season since they acquired him.
Yes.
Once Larson became good for the Oilers, they lost it.
Yes,
very
for
unfortunate.
nothing.
And now they're relying on Duncan Keith, Tyson Barrie, and Cody Ceci.
Can Cody Ceci and Duncan Keith replace that?
Right. And Tyson
that might be their second pair.
Yeah. And Darnell Nurse was so good last year. It's when he became a 25-minute-a-night defenseman. I think he was second in the league in goals amongst defensemen. Mm-hmm. He had an unbelievable season, but he's not enough to overwrite the mistakes that Keith, Ceci, and Barrie will probably contribute to this lineup on the defensive end.
Tyson Barrie's going to have some mistakes, but he's also, boy, that's a fun power play with him on it. It's unreal.
They're all going to be 7-6 games. They're going to, because we talked about there's 3 things. There's offense, defense, and goaltending. And you're in a good spot if you have 2. Mm-hmm. The Oilers might have 1, but it's the best one in the league.
Yeah, 100%.
They have offense. Their defense, I'm super not sold on. And their goaltending is, Mikko Koskinen might bounce back. Mike Smith might go down.
Mike Smith was a star last year.
He was
very good. And I think I said it in a previous season preview. You can offense your way to a great regular season in the National Hockey League.
Sure you can. They should have offensed their way to a second-round berth.
But
they outplayed Winnipeg in 4 games, and if any penalties were called at all, they probably...
Well, imagine that power play rolls out.
Yeah, if McDavid gets 1 call called
and that, by the way, will never happen again. Because of the amount of coverage that McDavid got specifically for that sizzle reel, remember that went viral?
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah.
That they, were literally Winnipeg is jumping on his back.
Just getting mauled.
It was a supercut of penalties.
It will never, ever, ever happen again.
But because the league is the way it is and officiating is the way it is, the Oilers are also going to have a ton of penalties called against them.
They're going to get penalized for not being penalized?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
We
I
talk about
hate
this
it.
at length. Calls in the NHL are
not fair.
50-50 the majority of the time. And it's not how the game is played.
Yep.
There aren't 50% of
No.
penalties on either side.
I went through it last year. You
Yeah.
guys remember that?
Yes.
1/3 of Oilers games will be on special teams.
See, yeah, and they should be.
They're
I'm
gonna-
frustrated.
They're going to take a ton of penalties. They're going to draw a ton of penalties. They're going to score a shitload of power play goals. They better hope their penalty kill is up to snuff. Getting Hyman helps that.
Right, it does. Now, here's a couple things I want to say.
Yeah.
First thing, on the defensive question, I think the Oilers have got to be betting on some of the younger players to sort of step up. I know Ethan Bear and Caleb Jones are gone, but Evan Bouchard, that's a guy you're hoping, I think, and expecting takes a step forward. And I would say that in a perfect world, Duncan Keith and Cody Ceci by next season are your third pair.
Boy, that's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money on the third pair. Listen,
Do you have the cap friendly up? How much
I
they
do.
make?
I do. It's a lot.
I've already watched a team that had 2/3 of its right side as CC and Barry, and they would.
That's
Yeah.
true.
I know Oilers fans may be like, "Shut up, Leaf fan." Who knows better what I'm talking about than me? Have you ever watched a CC Barry team? No,
So-
I have.
So
it was shit.
Duncan Keith is 5.5. Cody Ceci is 3.25. That's around $9 million on a pair.
Oh,
That's a lot.
Man.
And Chris Russell, I don't think will be back, but Slater Kukuk's there,
Yep.
and you've got Evan Bouchard. I think those are two guys that manageable players if somebody else goes down in it with injury, which inevitably will happen. And frankly, I think may be able to outplay. Some of the higher paid guys in the lineup. But I want to get to this. This is so important. We've only got 3 minutes left in this particular segment. Okay.
right. Their top scorer last year was Conor McDavid, by the way. Did you know that?
Yeah, but not the MVP. Remember, Connor. By the way, if Conor McDavid doesn't win the MVP forever and ever, amen. It's
he
ridiculous.
won the Hart last year.
I know. I just the year before
still
it was
hung up
like
on Taylor Hall.
I'm still upset.
Okay.
Overall, this is the most balanced Oiler lineup we've seen in probably 15 years.
Best
Fair?
offense
Yes.
they've
Best
had.
best since their 06 Cup run. Most balanced.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. And high-end talent and good depth and all of that. But the major weakness for me, and you mentioned it earlier, Jesse, and you mentioned his name as a star. Can a 40-year-old Mike Smith play over 40 games? Because what I do know is Mikko Koskinen cannot.
He has to be better. He talked recently about the difficulty of last season, and he was very lonely. He was,
Which your heart goes out, right?
yeah. You forget about
The human part. But he
the
wasn't.
human part. Well, and his family's over in Finland, right? So that is a very difficult thing. But the simple fact of the matter is, I think they tried to move on from this guy. They couldn't. The guy in front of him's 40 years old. He has to be better.
Mikko Koskinen has had spurts in his career so far where he has looked like very good, like an all-star caliber.
You have a
goalie.
5 or 6 game
But-
stretch for sure.
Yeah, even more than that.
I don't know.
Mikko Koskinen
Not much more.
has gone a month or so where he's looked like the Koskinen that they brought over and handed out a contract before he even played a substantial amount of NHL games.
He's had hot streaks.
He's had hot streaks. So if the team is good enough and they're putting up enough points where Mike Smith and Koskinen can be just average, they should be very good.
Fogel too up front. Like they've never had a forward group like this
Dare we say Ken Holland's done a good job filling out this roster?
up front.
Yes.
You're still not believing on defense.
No.
No, it's
Do you
horrendous.
believe the Cody Ceci story with Pittsburgh? Was
What's
that a
the
good
story?
Well, he apparently played great there. Now, I've seen preseason, I'll grant you, but I've seen Cody Ceci already get dangled, like I saw him get dangled in the preseason. I used to see him on the Leafs. I know people loved him in Pittsburgh, but is Cody Ceci going to be the Cody Ceci we know or the Cody Ceci the Penguins know?
Here's what it's got to be, and this is all the conversation.
Be short on this because we got to get to the protection.
Well, it's the same conversation with the Leafs.
Mm-hmm.
The Oilers are going to win a stupid amount of games this regular season. Can they do it in the playoffs? And I look at that defense and I go, yeah, there's a resume there, but it's a little out of date.
Okay. What place do they finish in the regular season?
Second in the division.
Jesse.
Second.
I also say second place for the Oilers. And look at that. Time's up.